Thank you very much for joining me for another small Living the Dream event. And the topic today is the Atlantica album, and I called it a deep dive. Deep dive, yeah, deep dive. So some of the musicians are here. So Tobias, who was like actually the first person to actually work on this project, and Andy Pupato, who played the percussion, and Luca Calabrese, who played the trumpet. And let's see if somebody else will join eventually. I was so busy these last few weeks that I basically forgot to invite the musicians to this event. I'm very sorry. But anyway, so I think that if anybody wants to say something or has a question before I actually start, that would be great, because I can then sort of like I just said to the other guys that we will improvise. I said that slightly differently, but anyway. So, but if there's any input, any idea what you would like to see or what you would like to hear, I can maybe accommodate that. And maybe just before you say something, this afternoon can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. There was I had a shock because I looked at my server where I have the backup of all the sessions for this project, and I saw that most of the files had a byte size of 0 bytes. And it wasn't just a joke, it was true. Like, most of the files weren't there anymore, weren't usable. So fortunately, I could find them. I did find them as deleted files in my Dropbox. So I was able to find the files I wanted to show you. So I have them. I have actually prepared 3 tracks to show you. And yeah, but anyway, like, does anybody have anything to say about the Atlantica? Have you heard it already? It's been on the Apertos Bandcamp page for a while, and all the tracks are streaming, I think. So it's, and we started sending out copies, I think last week. So some of you may already have received the album.
Well, Markus, a question. Hi, it's Christine.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. So this sounds very different from your other projects, and I know you want to show us the stuff in the deep dive, but can you explain a little bit the creative process before you dive deep?
Yeah, sure. So the creative process is so first of all, why do you think it's so different from my other projects?
It sounds very different, maybe because you're not playing as much, even though you were still part of the creation and so on. It just sounds very different. It's lighter, it's more melodic and more airy. So yeah, just first observation.
Yes, yeah. So first of all, I think like it's very much a project that's based on intuition rather than anything conceptual when it comes to the musical compositions. I mean, the idea of the album that like the person who financed it and who had the idea, like Matthias Dera had, was conceptual, right? But the execution of the music was totally intuitive on my end. And it started with Matthias and me, actually. Well, we made a list of musicians that we would like to get involved. And so Tobias actually was the first on the list, because we had already spoken with him, or even Matthias had spoken with him even before we were thinking of inviting so many other musicians. Andy was on the list right from the very beginning. Luca was on the list. Gary Husband was on the list. Raphael Preuschel, the bass player, was on the list. And many others. Like, initially we had the idea that there would be a different lineup for each song, for each piece. But once we got like the first tracks back from Raphael and Gary, it was clear that they needed to play on all the tracks. And so like there's this core band of like 5 people, people who play on every one of the tracks, except for the last one, which is just a soundscape that I played a long time ago. Like haven't given this away yet, but it was played in 2012 or something, and it was recorded by my friend Eric. And it's funny because like sometimes I just spoke to that with a student today. Sometimes there's a musical piece or a musical idea that you come up with, and then you realize it doesn't fit anywhere. You don't feel like you want to utilize or use it for anything. And so in this case, this piece, which is called "The End of the World" on the Atlantica album, is set on the shelf for 10 years, almost 10 years, and for this, this version of the piece that's on this album has some of Andy's metal sounds on it, actually, which were just slowed down like half speed. So they are from some other track on this album, and so everything was kind of like just a creative flow. And Tobias, maybe can you tell us about what the initial brief was for you and what you did?
Yeah, I'm actually wondering. I don't really remember what you told me, because the first time that Matthias mentioned the project to me was I was assuming that he told me that he had plans to travel to Brazil actually and to record soundscapes there, and that was going to be the basis for pieces he wanted to invite people to play on. And by the time it got serious, I think that idea had been scrapped. And he had sent me a CD. I was looking around just moments before I came on the call, but I don't see it. There's like a CD he sent me with like example tracks of Brazilian music. And he just told me to like have a listen to that and see what I think, and then just create rhythms for you to then work with. So the brief wasn't very specific. And also when he asked me, he actually told me about all these styles and everything. And I said, I'm like with the tools and the processes that I have, I won't be able to play or program authentic sounding Brazilian music, and I won't try to, because that's like, if you try to simulate that, it's only going to fail. And he said, and you also, you say, don't worry, just create, like, have that in mind as like an atmosphere, maybe more, and then create based on that. And so that's what I did.
I've just so this may be interesting to you as well, Tobias, right? So here, I think these are not the original files, but this is what it turned out to be in the end. These 6 files maybe here, these 6 tracks. And I was using the label that you gave those tracks up until the end. But when I started bouncing these files, which means like I played each individual file out for the mix engineer, I wanted to find some sort of name for the track that was a little bit descriptive of what it is. If I play you one of some of Tobias' stuff here now, you'll realize that it's not really a gong. I mean, it's not. It's what is it? But let's just listen to something. Let's just hear this, what I call gong small 1.
And let me just say that it's like 18 months since I last heard that. So I played those things and I sent them to you, and I only heard the finished album, but I haven't listened back to what I did. So
yes, and you even said that you can't hear yourself in it, but believe
sometimes,
me,
yeah. No, I think it meshes beautifully, because with the other percussions, with just all the other instruments, the soundscapes. I mean that in a good way. When I can't hear myself, it's not, the music isn't I don't imagine tracks like we're looking at now here. It's not like, oh, I can hear the 7 tracks of this and this and this. It's like the whole thing has merged into something coherent where the individual parts aren't actually that important anymore.
Exactly.
That's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually the aim of mixing and producing this kind of music, that it becomes one rather than just separated tracks, right? So let's just listen to what this is. I can bring in this guy. Middle click. So let me just loop this section here, right? So hear how abstract this is. So, but now we can bring in some of the bass here. Bass being like almost the main melodic element here. Interesting, right? Like, and this is the most pop sounding song on the whole record, and we're looking at like some of these parts, and it's like, oh, kind of interesting, right? So then, like, if we add what is called bass chords here, which is like some plugged like double stops, I think that Raphael played on bass, they add like this little bit of the I don't know how you call it, like backbeat kind of feel. So I can just go on and kind of like present this stuff, but you can always ask, yeah? So if you want to hear a specific, if you want to hear like what the electric piano does there, just tell me, okay? So in terms of like we have going small here, we have the metal click, and if we go, now let's just stay with this section maybe, and like let me just take the piano in here, and let's loop this. So now you get a sense. Now this plus that one little thing of electric piano. So I found this interesting because now, before, it wasn't really clear at all what we were hearing in terms of pitch, right? Somehow with like the bass being low and kind of like muted sounding, and Tobias' parts being like, you know, shifted, microtonally, right? So it's really interesting. So bringing in a little bit of that little chord there on electric piano points out that we actually have a chord change here in the middle, and so you see this track here, which is called Chorus Mellotron. That is basically the part that I had written for, I don't know if it's for the chorus, I guess. So let's listen to the whole chorus, which I guess ends about here. I don't know, it doesn't matter. And so like now we have, in addition to what we heard before, we'll have like this mellotron sound which plays the changes, chord changes. Funny. So you can always ask. Yeah, I say that repeatedly because it's important. So this, I just keep adding, okay, because that seems interesting. So Gary also played some acoustic piano here on this track, and let's just bring that in. So play that again, and we'll also hear Gary playing these two events. You see, like really, I mean, I have to say Gary isn't here, so I can say it. It's like what he does is like absolute, like the genius level of stuff. I did not delete anything what he played, and for some tracks he gave me like 6 or 8 tracks of stuff, yeah, like also like almost always 2 piano tracks, electric piano and acoustic piano. So this go-go part, which is something that I had brought in, I think, which was a sample that existed in the track before, way before Andy added his real percussions later. So let's bring this one in. Taking the keyboards out. And I remember that when I chose the sample I looped it, I tried to kind of use like an old-fashioned way of cutting it. So not trying to, because with Ableton Live, the software that I'm working in here, it's pretty easy just to quantize stuff and make it sit perfectly on the grid. And so here, this is like some crude edit that has a little bit of swing to it. Also a little bit, you can even hear the edits and stuff. So it's a little bit like, and Tobias is a specialist, no, I'm just kidding. Like it's sort of like the old hip hop style where stuff was just kind of like thrown into a sampler and looped and stuff. So I tried to keep a little things fresh. And as you can see, like the way that Raphael, the bass player, interpreted this groove, like I'm not sure if you guys will be able to hear the click when I bring it in. Let's see if that works. So if we hear this now in relation to the pulse, which is at 120 BPM here, you'll hear that Raphael's interpretation is in between. I don't know, like maybe Andy could explain what it really is, but it's sort of like a mix of triplet and eighth note feel, and it's pretty cool. So let's hear this again. So I hope this is interesting. Yeah, please say something. Okay. So let's see what else we have here that we haven't looked at. Okay, so first, no, let's look at the other stuff that I kind of did, which is like this arpeggios part. This one is kind of interesting. I want to play it to you individually. So listen here. So it's basically the same chords that the mellotron plays. So if we bring this in here, this is the same thing. And what I did here is like one of these tricks that I sometimes do. I played this part back at 2 different tempos. So both of these arpeggios are not in time with the track. So I don't know, one was at like, I don't know, 87 and the other was at 93 or something like that. And then I penned them hard left and right. So what you see as left, right here in this yellow thing is actually 2 performances basically of the same part with the arpeggiator being set to different tempos. And that's why you get this ripple effect between the 2 sides. So if you listen again, you pay attention to what's happening left and right, you can hear it, I guess. this is particularly prominent, I think, if I remember correctly, at the very front. And so like not that this was I don't think that it was my idea at the time, but because this part existed before Raphael played his bass, okay? But the idea is like if you have things that are not supposed to be perfectly in time and kind of free, and you can add parts that are artificially free, like these two arpeggios mixed in with each other, right? And you can basically create a texture that tells the listeners or confuses the listener where the subdivisions really are in the tempo, and that means that more freedom goes and works within that context. And this here really worked beautifully. So if we listen to the bass with the arpeggio, for example, like, so nothing is really referencing the tempo of the song perfectly here. Let's listen to this. I love it. It's really cool. And you see, it's the funny thing is, like, even though this is free, there still is a grid and there still is a tempo. So let's see what Andy then, or let's see what Tobias actually adds here. Interesting, huh? Okay, so what I wanted to show you is, so Shaker, and I call it Shaker Played, so to make clear to Stefano Castagna, who mixed this, that there are parts that were programmed and parts that were freely played. I think it matters for the engineer to know what the source is. And so we can maybe listen to Andy's Shaker with the arpeggios and the bass. Okay, let's do that, and we turn on Tobias again. Okay, here we go. Cool, huh? It's almost as if, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 different layers of interpretation of the tempo kind of coexist. It's awesome. Like, it's for me, it's also really very much about learning more about this kind of work of making parts work with each other. When I started producing music in around 2005 with Pat Mastelotto, things were very different then. Like, we were very much about quantizing stuff and getting, because also we had a different writing process where it was very much about, like, playing an intuitive thing, like a short thing, and then kind of like quantizing it and then using that to come up with the composition. And here, as I said, like, the performance that Andy plays here, where is it? Where is it? I'm blind now. Here, the Shaker Played. You see, this is actually what he sent me. Like, maybe what I may have done is kind of like muted here for a little bit, because that's where there was like a little bit of a breakdown, or maybe here. But everything else is just as he played it. You see it gets a little different here, so let's listen here at the back. Yes. So the bass chord is interesting here too.
So Markus,
Yes?
what kind of, or maybe I should ask Andy, what tracks did you receive to play to? Did you get like a full, like a bounce, or did you get any kind of reference?
Actually, I got quite some stems, not all of them, but I got probably most of them. And when I got them, it was really interesting because kind of a little bit what we found out now together, it was the situation then. I had all these kind of grooves and stuff floating with each other, and all these different feels and grooves, and it was really kind of a special experience to find my part. Luckily I had a click track and so I could kind of somehow establish also myself and like you hear it with the shaker, that I could establish a time, and that kind of then slowly the other instruments started to melt into this, and the things started evolving. So the whole recording process for me was really interesting. I spent quite some time in my space where I record all my stuff, and it was really fun actually, because there were also these generative beats that you made, Tobias, which I did not knew that you made them. So I thought this is kind of some programmed percussion, and I started playing with it, and it all of a sudden things started to make sense, and it was kind of, I started to feel that it was not programmed. It was kind of somebody really made something with this let's say artificial percussions.
Mm-hmm.
So what you said before, it kind of was interesting that you just did something, but actually it for me it was kind of the first time I played with some like live generated percussions. And it was kind of a cool experience, that all of a sudden you have like somebody that you play together, but it's not actually human, but it's some other artificial intelligence maybe. Or so,
you know, that's really cool to hear for me, because I originally also come from instrumental music. I used to be a guitar player when I was a teenager, and then in my early 20s got into electronic music, and I kind of tried to find my own voice. I mean, I do lots of different things, not just percussions, but like working with electronics maybe, and find an approach where you get this hybrid quality. It sounds artificial, but then it doesn't sound artificial in the sense that you would expect from techno or something, but it's in a way it's very organic for the fact that it's electronic. It's weird. So you get in this weird thing where people actually sometimes aren't sure, even if it's, you know, is it samples, is it synthesizers, is it what is played, what isn't played, is everything programmed? But it's you know, hearing this from you is actually a wonderful confirmation that it's kind of working. So very nice to hear.
Yes.
So let me show you what the other percussion instruments do. Okay, I think it's interesting to hear, but because the groove will change again. So if we just look here at the beginning. Now let's take the shaker out, maybe.
No, leave it out. Leave it out. Okay. I gotta cut it. We're having stuffing for dinner.
Okay, just want to make sure I don't.
Okay.
Thanks.
Your
Jim, can you mute your microphone, Jim? Can you hear me, Jim? Let me try to do that from here. Okay. Sorry for that. Okay, so I wanted to, now everything is playing, but what I wanted to actually show you is like, so I had put in this loop. So this was a sample loop that it's cool, huh? But then Andy played the same instrument, but he played it live. So this is cool. So now, like, if we put the bass in, just the bass in with this. And with the agogo here. And then let's see what else. We got these metal sounds from Andy. Is there anything else here? Yeah, the wood block. Yeah, of course. Was that Tobias or Andy, the wood block? I don't remember.
That's not me.
Yeah.
So it was me then.
Yes. So here this is this groove here now. So if we bring the shaker in. And then let's bring Tobias's stuff in. You can already hear how complex the arrangement is, right? So there's not one moment in the whole on the whole album where there's the same thing repeating, even though individual parts may repeat. As you can see, like the pseudo loop here, it's just a copy and paste of a 4-beat loop or something. What I wanted to show you also is here these what I call moving strings. I just need to find them here. So this is also just a version of the chords, and it's like this. So it's just this standing chord here, and then in the verses. Here now with electric piano. And with the bass stabs here. We already get like a picture of the harmony and stuff now with the low bass. So let's bring in the shaker. And I also have this part called static strings. Now the bass percussion. And I added another version of the pad sound here. Sounds like this. I like that sound. I had forgotten about it. So like when I'm doing these keyboard sounds like this one that we just heard, or the strings, I always tweak them. I always process them. So what you're hearing here is not what came out of the synthesizer or the plugin, synthesizer plugin. This is already treated and changed in character, which like for me is sort of like an important thing when working with especially with plugins that, I mean, it doesn't really matter that I was going to say that are not analog, but you know what I mean. There's less movement in there, and so I kind of like always try to add some of that. So here is also, this is where the voice comes in for the first time. So we can listen maybe to this interesting sounding pad sound now with the voice on it. That's maybe nice, maybe not. Let's see.
A moth, the hue of this haunts candles in Brazil. Nature's experience would make our red a second pale.
It's kind of magical, huh? That it wouldn't even need anything else.
That's a realization when you ask what is so different. I think that the layering in this album, it captures so many things. You could just what you did as subsets could be their own songs.
Yes.
And it's fascinating, and I don't think it's true of most albums. There's just so many layers that complement each other in different ways, and you get the different grooves and different beats working against and with each other. It's just fascinating. You could release a whole album with just that song, different versions.
Yes, very much so.
It's really fun.
Believe it or not, like I've been working like this forever. Like also the albums where you think you're only hearing 3 instruments, you're hearing 30 layers, stuff like that. I mean, in this case, is you're right. It's not. I wouldn't call it layers. It's actually parts. So there are many different parts here, which is a different thing, right?
Yeah, they have all different. The tonality of each of them and all the different percussions. It's just
exactly.
Anyways, it's fascinating.
Exactly.
It's really cool.
No, I know what you mean. So if we like, let's see. Yeah.
Can I just offer one term, just to maybe have in mind as we're listening, is this idea of like the album is dedicated to like a patch of rainforest basically, which is an ecosystem. And if you think of music as an ecosystem instead of like a set of tracks like on a highway, we're watching tracks here now, but like the way they work together, Andy has already hinted at this, but Markus made it more explicit now, and you, Christine, as well. This idea that there's like little groups of like little patches of things that work together, and then there's other groups that do other things that work together, and they're all in relationship. So maybe if you think of these pieces as like an ecosystem of relationships and like transfers of energy, maybe that's helpful.
Yes. And I mean, I would like to listen to this chunk again with Gary's keys, right? With the electric piano and the acoustic piano. And it's wonderful. Let me just move this so that you can see, where is the... Yeah, I'm sorry that this is a little bit. Okay, let's do the like no bass but electric piano. Okay, so here now we have the acoustic piano and electric piano side by side with the chord pad plus the voice.
A moth, the hue of this haunts candles in Brazil. Nature's experience would make our red a second pale.
It's wonderful. And then like you have like something like the arpeggios, right? That run at those strange tempos.
A moth, the hue of this haunts candles in Brazil.
Etc. Yeah. So here, I don't think has Arolee arrived. Arolee is the flute player who played on this track, and she was supposed to be here by now, and she's not. So, but anyway, so this was also interesting because, like traditionally, the musicians that I like, they sort of, you know, I like professionalism, right? I like the professional. I like the flashy stuff. I like the perfect stuff. I like the groovy stuff. But I also like the amateur. Like Arolee is by far an amateur because she's not an amateur. She plays for the Houston Symphony Orchestra, right? But the idea also is like to sometimes in a project like this to offer a learning experience for a person. And Arolee is studying with me. She's studying composition and music in general terms with me. And so I challenged her to play a solo on this track, and she had never before played a solo on anything. I mean, a written solo or a cadenza or something, but not in a piece like this. And I initially found what she sent to be like a little bit, I don't know how to put it. I think it's perfect, right? It's perfect now, but when she sent it, I was thinking, okay, now this is a little bit tentative and stuff, and like in the end, it turned out it was perfect. And let me try to find it. Here's the flute, right? So this is the first little solo. So let's see what we get here. Oh, sorry. Continues here. And this is the spot where Grasa Cunha comes in, the the singer from Brazil. I need to find her here. I don't know. Arely is just joining, so let's say hello to her. So please always ask questions. Yeah. Arely, are you there?
Hello.
Hey, I just played your
Hello.
part. I just played your part to
Oh,
people.
rats.
And
Sorry, I'm late.
yeah, no problem. I told them that you were my student, and this was like an assignment as part of us working together, right? And,
Yeah.
yeah, and it came out beautifully. Maybe we can find the. I mean, yeah, there's so much going on here. So, Vox 2. Let's look at that first. So Vox 2 must be Grasa Cunha. So let's listen here and see what happens.
De mundo melancólico, os homens leem jornais, homens indiferentes a comer laranjas que ardem como o sol. Me deram uma maçã pra lembrar a morte. Sei que cidades telegrafam.
Etc. Right? It's beautiful. Beautiful. And yeah, at the end here we get a little bit more of Arely, I think. Here we go.
Em vez de juízo final, a mim preocupa o sonho final. Final.
Just found something really interesting here. So this is lead synth. This is also something that Gary sent. And here I see, and you can see it visually, that this chunk repeats here. So I must have duplicated it from here to there, just because I thought it would be cool if it happens twice. And it sounds like this. Yeah, so that's that there. Yeah, any questions, anything that I didn't show you that you want to hear in this track, or questions? I mean, like you see, there are plenty of other parts, like this tambourine here, which is a sample that I flew in. It sounds like this. And just like what Tobias said before, like these parts, sometimes they are not even meant to be heard, but meant to be felt. So they sort of like fill a certain part in the frequency spectrum where I think like a little bit of drive is needed or something, and they just kind of, these parts, it's very soft here, it slots in with something that makes things feel better. And so the interesting thing is I do make that kind of decision based on how I mix the tracks when I'm working on the arrangement or on the orchestration, on the composition. But then at the end, I hand it off to the mix engineer, and I'm not telling him to turn something up or down. And things can be very different when they get returned to me. And I just love that. I just love that then there's somebody else who reinterprets a part as something that should actually be heard, which kind of happened a lot on this record. So Stefano, who is not here tonight, he's just an amazing engineer who works like in a very traditional way with an analog desk, with a mixing desk, and he so because like a mix down, like if you think, okay, I haven't even looked like how many tracks are like 26 tracks, most of them which are stereo, right? So it's a lot of stuff to cram into just 2 channels of stereo, but if you have the right technology and the right ear, you can kind of like make these things breathe and sit within that smaller space, and really and that can work really, really well, which I also think this is a good example. This production is a good example for that. Let me see if there's anything here that I've forgotten to mention that I thought would be worthwhile. You see, there's more of this lead synth happening here from Gary, which I didn't play you. More parts from Tobias. Flute. Okay, well, the most obvious, the most important thing I forgot completely, right, is the field recording. Again, like pretty low, but this thing runs throughout the whole track. So we can make an experiment here and go back to, say, the beginning.
Are all these real soundtracks from Brazil? Because some
Yes.
of them sounded like, from different types of birds, and I was like, is this legit?
I think it is, yes.
Oh, okay.
I haven't made them myself, so I
It's ecosystem compliant.
I think it is. But you know what I did is that I also treated these. So maybe I sped something up, slowed something down, mixed different parts of it, so it was never, as far as I'm concerned, never meant to be it was never meant to be real in that sense. Just like the rhythms weren't meant to be Brazilian rhythms, right? So it's just for the color, for the vibe. And so let's listen to maybe the field recording again with the voice and just the pad here and the verse. Because you'll see it's very interesting how the field recording changes the vibe.
The hue of the haunts candles in Brazil.
So I think that's enough, but it makes a big difference, right? And I mean, why is that? Is it because something continuous kind of goes through? Is it the noise? Is it the high pitched? I mean, the noise as in like the white noise, or is it the high pitched sounds of the birds? Like it's difficult to tell, but it makes a huge difference. And like when you go back to listen to the album, I think you can kind of like, now that you know what's in there, you may be able to pick out more than before. So what else? I mean, the field recording. Yeah, I think I basically showed you everything that was relevant here on this track.
So again, I'm the only one asking questions. I guess I'm not shy. But I was curious, and this to build up on what I think the question that started to be addressed: who got what when? And it seems to me that did Arlie hear the rest before she went in, or was there a sequence, or it was also organic, and sometimes somebody would get something more finished than the other? I mean, it seems to me this creation in parallel, yet kind of. Can you expand on that? I'm very curious. Yeah.
I don't think I heard the birds. I didn't hear the birds.
Oh, so you didn't try to harmonize with them.
You see, like part of my slightly magical thinking about making art is that you should always try to kind of like leave things open-ended a little bit. And so when doing this kind of work, where clearly we're not in the same room, right? This certainty and uncertainty that you have when you're actually playing together is something that you can sort of like create by employing little tricks. So, for example, not sending a musician who contributes something everything, right? So, for example, I'm just making up an example. So if I already have somebody playing solos on a track, I wouldn't send those solos to somebody else who was going to add solos, because I do not want them to respond or restrict themselves in ways that maybe will not, let them give their intuitive and most open performance, right? So it's not really a trick, but it's sort of like having some sort of knowledge, what kind of expression or depth of expression I want to get from a musician, right? So depending on that, I would sort of censor the material that the tracks that they would get to hear. And what's very interesting, like Andy, who's here, he was, believe it or not, like almost the last person to add his stuff, right? So we were basically listening. This track is not a good example because there's no kick drum from Tobias. On some of the other tracks, we have kick drums from Tobias, sorry, I had to mute somebody here. The percussions, Andy's percussions, were added last. Right? I don't think anybody would ever believe that, but it's true. Right? Then there's another track which maybe we can look at where Luca plays the lead part, and he played the lead part to the full track. So he basically heard everything and just played on top of that. So there was an example of where there was no censoring of what he got to hear, and he could respond to the full thing. Maybe what's kind of like noteworthy about this track is that Matthias, my friend who financed this project and who also was my creative partner in this, he wrote the beautiful vocal melody here in this track. It's his melody. He chose the words. And so the idea was to sort of like, initially the idea was maybe to have a male voice and a female voice and stuff like that. And in the end, we ended up with 2 female voices. And there is this part in the song where they happen at the same time, which is sort of like a magical moment. So if you don't mind, I want to play that to you just a cappella, just the voices. So it's this.
Final. No fim de mundo melancólico, os homens leem jornais. Homens indiferentes a comer laranjas que ardem como o sol. Me deram uma maçã pra lembrar a morte.
It's also interesting, right? Because you could say that in a way it doesn't fit at all somehow. But then if you're listening to this is another thing I wanted to mention about like a great mix. Like you can have an arrangement. Let's say you have something that's already great, already good, but there are like things that don't work very well. And with a great mix engineer, you'll know that the mix engineer will make it work. And it's a really, really amazing art form that is very hard to explain, because it works with the idea of mostly limiting the dynamics, or changing the dynamics of parts. Right? So it's very much about making things. If I could find, I don't know if you can see me right now, but you would really kind of like make things work by moving the faders, by setting up a compressor in a certain way, so that the parts start kind of interacting in a way that they don't right now. But a mix engineer would find ways for things to kind of like come in and out as they are adding importance to the track. You see, like I did pan the voices left and right here, which in the produced song in the mixed song I don't think they are panned hard left and right. Anyway, that was this song, and so I have another two here. So this is the one that, should I say this? No. So this is the one that Luca plays the main part, and it's his feature basically, this whole song. Initially, we were also looking at having this as a vocal song, but once Luca was involved, there was no need at all to have a vocalist. Thanks for that, Luca. So I don't know, like this piece has Raphael Preuschel on double bass, an actual big traditional string bass instrument. And you see this first chunk is all bowed, and we have some bowed parts coming in here in the middle and at the end. And then we have the main groove, which is in this song is in 7. Well, this piece is in 7. And so maybe we'll start by listening to the bass. So the bowed bass in the beginning is, I think you can see that I probably copy and pasted this. Yeah, looks like, this is like sort of like also a technique I use, that I'm not necessarily copying and pasting on the grid. And so you can see that it kind of like starts looping here, starts looping here, starts looping here, starts looping here, and here. But it sounds like this. Right? That's all that. So then we get his plugged part here, which is very cool. Variations happening here. And just like Candles in Brazil, Raphael kind of like uses both like binary subdivisions as well as triplet subdivisions and things in between, right? Like really freely here, which is particularly great in an odd time signature. It kind of like adds to that, sort of like making it kind of like making it try to feel straighter than it is somehow, by making it more complicated, which is an interesting effect that like some of us musicians know this, that you can make things sound easier by doing something that's harder to play, and it's really cool. And let's just go through this to hear some of the variations he played. This is we're gonna look at this section in detail, I think, at some point, because this is some sort of bridge part. So just like that. Again here. Etc. Let's see here. Ah, yeah. That's this one here. Very cool. So let's see. So we have the acoustic piano, quite a bit of it. Let's see what else. Electric piano 1 and 2, right? So this is cool. Let's look at that. So let's solo these 2 electric piano tracks and play here. Sorry. Sorry, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Sorry. Absolutely beautiful. Just field recording and electric piano is beautiful. You see, it's I certainly didn't edit any of this that Gary played here, and you see in the same sections you even have the acoustic piano going. So let's listen again from here. So it's. I find it beautiful and fascinating. So now, like, just having heard this, like, we have no idea what the track really sounds like, right? So I just see here that this is one of the cases where we have 2 field recordings that play at the same time. So this is field recording 1. And it's pretty much static throughout, so I don't remember. Maybe it was just like a 3-minute thing, and then I duplicated across the whole track, something like that. But it was it wasn't like like a 10-minute recording. And the second sounds like this. So very different. I think these are probably frogs or something. So I mixed these 2 together. It's awesome. Like here we get a lot of action. Okay, and so the question could also be like, why did Gary play this kind of super experimental stuff where there's like no key center or anything? It's just colors basically. I remember that what I sent him initially was Tobias's parts, which we can sort of hear here. For example, this gong bass, this is Tobias. Let's see what else we have here from Tobias. Okay. I also took the field recording and turned it into a rhythmic track, which is this. And what I was going to say, so there's this track that's called Glass here, which was my original experimental synth track, which I think inspired Gary. Let's play from here again. And it's like this. So it was this kind of thing that Gary kind of heard when he added his electric pianos. Bringing the field recordings in here. And this is the part where the string bass is playing this bowed sound. This bowed note. And so I'm going to play you now a mix and a version of this that nobody heard up until this point, where, like I said, Luca, who plays these three horns, these three trumpet parts, he heard the full track and played to the full track. So now I'm just going to give you what we just heard, plus his initial, he can tell us later if it was improvised or he sort of like worked it out, but this is what Luca played to it. Beautiful, just beautiful. And I see that Andy played some talking drum and also these nuts here, which sound really cool. So the nuts that's this kind of sound. So we get to it here. But also the talking drum, which is sort of a feature of this intro. Just a couple things happening here. So you see this intro goes on for quite a bit here up until this point, and then the bass comes in with the plug thing. And so what is sort of a couple of important things here is I did write this chord part for it, and you see like I think all of these here are basically copies of the same, almost the same part played on a keyboard, or even, I typed in the notes or something like that, and then I created a few versions of this. So let me just listen, because I can't even remember what the chords vocal synth were like. So this, as you could hear, this is already a mix down of several sounds into one subgroup, and then here we have the Matrix 12 Oberheim synth. Also playing the same part, like with this string sound. So the reason why I gave like several variations of this, basically the same part, was that, like I said before, when passing this on to a mix engineer, you never know how it's going to get balanced. And so I do this kind of thing in order to get surprised, you know, how the mix engineer is going to balance it. And also if maybe, you know, because like you see all the parts are kind of like doubled here throughout the whole track. So then if the engineer decides to bring a part in and out and change the mix throughout the song, you can get different textures going on through the piece. And I guess that's what Stefano did also. So let's just listen to the last one, which is brass. Yeah, some sort of trombone or horn sample. So what I suggest is we listen to the chords with the bass now. Now you'll hear the harmonic content better. I'd be happy to have some question or something.
Markus, I was curious whether did this start out in 7 or did it develop into 7.4 or 7.8?
It's a good point. I don't remember. I don't remember.
I think.
Yeah.
I'm actually not really sure. I was wondering if there's more that I did because I think it could be that I did something in 7. And the rhythmic, like the cut-up field recording that you made, so it reminds me of one of the rhythms that I actually think I used in one of the tracks, but I can't. You know, as I said, I worked for myself, and I never really heard what was added or subtracted. So it could be that I probably set the tempo. So I think I gave you indications of what like meters I used. Yes.
This was Tobias. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's in 7.
Yeah.
So that was the first part I got, and then like Tobias also did like these bell-like sounds here, which I haven't actually demonstrated. So there are a lot of like these experimental sounds kind of buried in the track. I say buried, but they are there. And we have also this. This is also Tobias. This high.
Ah, yes.
And this in combination with the gong bass, this is basically what Tobias sent. So this is kind of like what Tobias sent to us initially, and then I wrote the chord parts, stuff like that. Then I sent things to Raphael and Gary at the same time, and that then became the foundation. So here now, Tobias's parts with the double bass sound like this. super cool. And so just imagine, like, let's bring in Gary here. So like we can't even imagine like what would Gary play here. Well, he plays this. There's no Andy in this now, right? Like no percussion, no real percussion yet, which is interesting. And then here, so Gary also gave me all these improvised synth parts here, which is all of these tracks. So let's bring those in. And this is pretty cool stuff. Let's listen here. This voice-like thing here. It's like it's really like a collage, very much like a collage, this track. I mean, the whole album is a collage, but this one in particular. And so again, like let's look at Luca. So you see, like Luca is playing this, what I call horn 1 here. So the two thirds is just like solo trumpet, and then he does something amazing where he plays two complementary parts, starts playing two complementary parts here. And I want to show you this. So this is really cool if we just listen to the trumpets. Get the idea. It's wonderful, kind of wonderful. Like all these little sub groups that make, you know, a piece on their own. It's wonderful. Andy is playing this thingy here, I think, which is, let's see. And you can very much kind of like see that there may be some loops in here. Looks like this is looped, right? I can't remember if this was something that I did or something that Andy did, actually, I have to admit. So, but if we bring the talking drum back in here, and the nuts. And like this conga and triangle, that's a sample that I. And then there's Tobias' crazy clave. And with the bass. So this is fascinating. When bringing in the bass, like you hear a different key center, or different, even like a completely different tonality when the bass isn't there. When bringing in the bass, everything kind of like starts relating to the bass, obviously, but it's such a cool track. It's kind of like totally polytonal and stuff, and it's just so cool. And maybe we can listen from here again, and I can bring in more and more elements.
Did you write the bass line, or was that something?
No, Raphael. All the musicians who contributed wrote their own parts.
Amazing.
Yeah, and so also the pieces are credited to all the musicians that are involved in equal parts.
Markus, did you pitch adjust? You already talked about playing with the timing and so on, but did you also pitch adjust and?
No.
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 Okay,
maybe there was like one bass note that I wanted to end on a different note or something, and I may have done that in a couple places in the record, but like no, I didn't pitch correct anything.
Okay.
It wasn't just part of the concept. Like if with like an experimental track with like a field recording or with something that Tobias would have done, I wouldn't have had a problem to even pitch correct or change the pitch, right? But with the human performances, I try to keep that as natural and original as possible. Yeah, I mean, like we're almost at 90 minutes of this. I want to show you just like one of these beautiful things that we ended up doing here, which is, and I just need to find it, like spoken word. So we got my friend Pat Massalotto to speak these words into his iPhone, and this is like this is the Pat Massalotto feature of the album, and it sounds like this. Let me see if I should take out. Well, let's just see what happens. Should I take the bass out, maybe? Yeah. So let's listen.
There is pleasure in the pathless woods. There's a rapture on the lonely shore. There is society where none intrudes. By the deep sea and the music in its roar. I love not man the less, but nature more.
Yep. So I guess that probably should be it for today, or let's just have a little bit of an open conversation here if you want about this project. And,
what were the lyrics?
I think it's like Lord Byron or something. It's a Lord Byron quote that our friend Matthias found. And yeah,
Mark had a question, but he had an issue with the microphone. Can you try? No, he's not. Okay. Okay, so he asked me to ask his question for him. So he was asking, what are the vocalists singing to? You know.
Yeah, it's a good question.
What did you share with them? Or
yeah.
Yeah.
It depends on some of the tracks. Like the vocal contribution came first. Not first, but early on in the process. There are also a couple tracks where there are two vocalists. Where there's Zoe Glay, for example, and Lisa Fletcher singing on one track, and they had I didn't even play them the whole song, so they only sang for their section, so they didn't really know what was happening with the other singer or even the chorus, the big chorus of the song and stuff like that. And here with Pat, I don't remember if he actually had the track and then kind of like used his iPhone to record this or something like that. I don't remember. Yeah, it was like at various stages. But I seem to remember, like I said, that Andy, the percussion, came last actually on most of the pieces, interestingly enough. So yeah.
For me, this was
sorry.
really interesting, because like when I got the material, then it had all this relation to Brazil and with Brazilian rhythms and stuff, and all this was there, and I started playing, and I really love like ethnic instruments and all these Brazilian instruments. But then with this project, all that get to kind of a next level, and I really started to like it, that it was totally not traditional. It was really something else. So with the combination, and it was a true pleasure to just play it. And yeah, I think everybody did such a nice work on all that. It was just amazing to play with all of you, and yeah, it felt. And this, I recorded a lot of stuff in the pandemic or by myself, but like recording this, I felt really connected with everybody. That was really amazing. It was kind of like a real studio session then sometimes.
Yes, and like I said, you were the only one who basically heard, you know, stems and everything, and you could kind of like even mute parts, and you know,
yeah.
And so you had some freedom to also create the mix that you were going to play to, which is also has like a big influence, I think, on how we can respond as musicians, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a wonderful pleasure to do this project, and like it's another, I have to admit, another frustrating project though, because like the response is so not, I mean the responses are great for people who hear it, but it's almost impossible these days to get music out to people, and this is a little bit frustrating, but I do it for the music. I love the music. The music is wonderful, and it will survive somehow. I think.
You know, I just like 10 seconds ago, I had an idea that maybe this could work as a sound installation somewhere. Like maybe we could do like a spatial mix that is played in like more like an exhibition setting, and it's something where you can just go into and, you know, hang out in.
Yeah,
it's going to be a different project then again, but just yeah, maybe the format is just, I don't know. It seems so hard, like with tracks that you download on a computer, everybody is so distracted with everything else. It's maybe it just will require a different kind of listening format.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you have plans to mix it in surround, or I don't know, Ian Prince or somebody, because I think it would be really cool. I would really love that, but there's no demand. And what Tobias said, when you listen to surround, you don't do anything else. You sit in the middle of the room and you do just that, right?
Yeah, ideally, right?
But there's no demand.
Yeah, there's no demand, unfortunately.
I demand.
You demand, yes, I know. Hey, Diderot, you had your hand raised, I saw.
Yes, just to clarify to Andy, that most of the instruments you talk about is most African, in fact, not exactly Brazilian, but from the African roots, like conga, agogo, tambourine, most of them.
Yeah, but those are the ones that I chose, not Andy.
Yeah. But he talked about the Brazilian instruments,
yes.
Not in fact.
Yes,
not
yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mostly used here in our music, day by day, but they're from Brazil, African roots.
Yeah.
I really love also the African. I traveled. I was in Africa to learn and to play, and this project gave the chance to like put all this in a new context, which I really liked. Also, like the special meters like 7/4. All of a sudden, you play kind of with the traditional or the ethnic input, but in a total new setting with the generated percussions, which made it really interesting. And yeah, and to be able to do this, like, and then have somebody like putting all this together in that nice manner, it's really amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is. In fact, I'm in the middle of Atlantica now.
Yeah, that's amazing, Dido. And you wrote to me yesterday saying that I'm going to see you in a couple of weeks, right? Or next week, actually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I'm going to be traveling to South America on Thursday, in 2 days. And I'll be there in Chile and Bolivia and in Argentina. And I'm looking forward to it. It's really cold here in Berlin, and
it's hot here.
The other hemisphere is hot, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, that would be nice to get there once. I want to go to that place. Now I'm really inspired by
Atlantica. I would say the follow-up album will just all travel there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If this becomes a hit and we can finance it, we'll just all go there.
Maybe to play it live here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is possible to sort of like play this music live. It's obviously gonna be different, but I think it would be very cool. Yeah. Okay, thanks everybody. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
So I saw that some people wrote something in the chat which somehow I can't access while I'm sharing my screen. So if there was anything important, but I don't know. No, I see. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I think we addressed most of it.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, and bye bye.
Thank you.
And I'll put this video up on YouTube. If you want to share it with other people, then later you can. Okay.
Great.
And thanks to all the wonderful musicians. Thank you, Aralee. Thank you, Luca, Tobias, Andy, myself. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone.
Bye bye. For now. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.